Mets fans, how you doing? Even though I know the answer to that, it's your guy Wardy here. We're back at it with our latest post-game show / rant / therapy session / breakdown on the latest drama surrounding the club per usual, as not only did the New York Mets drop Game 1 of a multi-game series in Toronto against the Blue Jays by a final whopping score of 2-1, they had bad fundamentals, bad offense on another day where their pitching was actually not the problem. This is a day removed from the Mets dropping their series at home against the Philadelphia Phillies, in which, of course, the Mets didn't have the worst starting pitching, but they also didn't get the best timely offense at times either. And then a Kodai Senga, who was in there a little too long, giving up a meatball to absolutely nobody but, oh yeah, Kyle mother effing Schwarber. And that all goes in hand with the New York Mets find themselves in the continued loss column. The New York Mets now, everybody, are currently 35-50 on the season. They are a season worst 15 games below 500. The nails are in the coffin. Their season is over, and it is time to move forward in a full sell mode, as well as just getting rid of the nonsense that is currently surrounding the club. That includes cutting dead weights. We referenced in a key article earlier today in our breakdown on the platform how players and coaches, but ultimately why it is time for the New York Mets to cut bait sooner rather than later when it comes to players that looked at their phones at the morning of David Stern speaking to all of them saying, hey, Carlos Mendoza has been canned. The fact that players were more concerned about themselves and their trade status, but he is not going to be canned yet, whether you like it or not. We await comments from Steve Cohen, which I can tell you in confidence are going to be happening soon. Don't be surprised once you hear an announcement on that within the next 24 hours. And yes, that is my hint to each and every one of you that Steve Cohen will be talking to media shortly. And yes, there's something that will be revealed probably within the next day, if not sooner. So make sure you're on the lookout for that. It'll not be announced by myself, but you will most certainly hear that, I assure you. Nonetheless, everybody, in today's breakdown, we're going to get into a bit on this shit show you call a ball game per usual. Francisco Lindor hitting a bomb just like it did last time it was in Toronto there to the right side. Sadly, however, this one did not have the heroics the way that it did last time he did that in Toronto, keeping the Mets' hopes alive all those times ago. We're going to get into that, the drama, the status of the club, and everything else in between. So hit that like and subscribe on your way in. Join in, which is going to be quite the breakdown today, as we have to get into the pitching for the New York Mets. AC Basabe, Sean Manaea, another valiant outing for the New York Mets. Sean has actually started to find himself quite a bit since getting back in that early 90s echelon of velocity, setting 92, top in 94 or so. Sean Manaea is not looking nearly as much of a liability, but as has been the case with the New York Mets putting Andy Green in as interim manager, talking about too little, too late. We'll get into the Mets and their pitching, as well as Gerber, who did a tremendous job for the Mets today, who got the calls, we know, because Tobias Myers was sent back down after the Mets continued to misuse him throughout the course of the year. On the heading end, we're going to get into this Mets lineup. This is how the ball game ended, not how it started beside me, with some guys that you guys see in here, mainly Luis Torrens towards the bottom. We're going to get into Roddy Mauricio's continued mishaps defensively, Francisco Alvarez, and just everything that entailed with Juan Soto and AJ Ewing cueing the circus music to begin this ball game, which painted the story of not only this game, but ultimately a prime example of what has truly been such a joke, a circus that you call a Metropolitan season. Everybody, thank you so much for hitting those buttons on your way, and I will get to your comments here shortly. Let's shout out our amazing sponsor, that being Prize Picks, everybody, because listen, the Mets aren't going to show up, but Prize Picks will be there for you for the best app in the game for daily projections alive. Play that you see along beside me, looking at guys like Holland and Mbappe from not long ago, of course, for the respective countries in France and Norway. Maybe you want to do a Mets-related play for Manana, Mets, Blue Jays, more or less on hits, strikeouts, everything else in between. Maybe you want to do separate sports plays that are not relevant to this. Maybe you want to do things in the UFC space. Whatever you want to do, everybody, as Conor McGregor gets set for his first fight in 5 years at the UFC level, second weekend in July against Max Holloway. I cannot wait to see that happen. So whatever you guys want to get involved with, download the PrizePicks app today. Use our promo code, that being HMA, link down below, to get $50 in laps after you place your first $5 lineup. Again, that is promo code HMA after downloading the prize. Let's get right into this. And again, I want to know how many of you guys want David Stearns out of here, right now. Do you want him out now? Do you want him out soon? Do you want him out a month ago? Where do you guys stand on the David Stearns front? I definitely want to hear it, as obviously he and everything about this team has been a very tumultuous topic as of late. Help us get to 200 plus likes for our live and recurring. You guys can see here. And that obviously includes, and I answered the comment, Jonah, regarding the donation. Thank you so much for that. Again, I appreciate it. Let's get into this with how Sham and I fared today, where the Mets fell short, and why this season is most certainly cooked. Carson Bench began the ballgame for the New York Mets. They striking out. Juan Soto, then, we saw got on with a one-out double, his 8th of the season. Mets have a nice little early runner in scoring position. What do they do with it? Jack all. That's what the Mets sadly do. From Bichette to Francisco Lindor, they both respectively fly out, and that's it there for the top of the first. In the bottom of the first, everybody, we would go on to say George Springer give the Toronto mother effing Blue Jays a 1-0 lead. And you want to know how George Springer gave the Blue Jays a lead today, everybody? Oh, he gave the Blue Jays a lead in the most Metsian way possible. First, Juan Soto misplays a ball in left field, which we all understand Juan Soto's not a gold glove, right? We're not expecting that from Juan. But talking about timing of the bad fundamental play, it just gets from bad, absolutely ugly to downright horrendous for the New York Mets. Soto misses a ball. They jumps a little early on. It gets behind him. A.J. Ewing trying to make the quick play. Ball flies right out of the mitt, right out of the hand. It's going wild thing. It's nowhere even close. And George Springer, the man who the New York Mets came awfully close to signing, entering the 2021 season and the first offseason for Steve Cohen, falls short in bringing George Springer in. There were some connections there, as obviously he's from, if I'm not mistaken, the Connecticut area. So there was an emphasis potentially trying to bring him to the East Coast in that sense. He settles with Toronto, doesn't have a great first year or so. Then he becomes obviously a stud for them, had some big moments for them. And even as a veteran, George Springer obviously still a valuable player for that club. And he not only gets a triple, but he comes all the way in to score for an inside the park home run to begin the ball game. The first batter that Shamanaya sees today would ultimately be the biggest difficulty that he would face. And how fitting is it, again, that it's not as much about Shamanaya's shortcomings as a starter today as is the Mets' shortcomings when it comes to both their defense and their offense. It's just nothing short of a laughingstock is what's going on for the New York Mets, regardless if they're in Flushing, Queens, or now currently in Toronto. As we continue on from there, the Mets are down 1-0. Then Kazuma Okamoto, who I absolutely love, wanted him the offseason terribly, and there's a reason for that. Okamoto has been having a very solid season for the Toronto Blue Jays, but just under 800 OPS. Very strong glove, and has been hitting plenty of bombs this season, and would have been great in a Mets uniform, in my opinion. He gets hit by the pitch, but again, maybe it would have been terrible because all good things come to die when it comes to being in Flushing, Queens, right? So Okamoto gets on with a hit by pitch. Ernie Clement then gets on with a single. So runners at first and second, but thankfully, at least at the time, the Mets are able to get out of that jam. In the second inning, we see the Mets go down after we see Jared Young reach on a throwing error from Trey Savage. In the bottom of the second, Luis Urias gets on with a walk. That's all she wrote, though. A nice job by Shamanaya to get an inning double play on Miles Straw. In the third inning, we see Carson Bench with a one-out knock after Alvey would fly out, and the Mets do nothing there as both Soto and Bichette would ground out. Bottom of the third, we see the Mets get a 1-2-3 from Springer to Lukes to Vladdy Guerrero Jr. with a nice catch there, play by Mr. Juan Soto and left this time. Top of the fourth, we see the Mets go down in order from Lindor to Young to Ewing. Bottom of the fourth, we see Juan Soto make another nice play in left field, so trying to bounce back from that early error, that early woe that was not good at all between Okamoto to Clement to Valenzuela. That does it there for the inning. We head to the fifth. We're in the fifth. The Mets did, yes, you guessed it, out 1-2-3, including Francisco Alvarez being robbed of would have been fantastic deep contact, but Miles Straw, the high-flying outfielder, of course, gets the best of himself. In the bottom of the fifth, Luis Urias with his first double of the season. And then it's Miles Straw, the man who made a great web gem a half inning ago. A man far known for his offense is able to get a sac fly to bring in a run and make it a 2-0 lead. And then afterwards, George Springer would be called out on strikes to end the inning. And in the sixth, we see the Mets go down 1-2-3, including Bo Bichette with a line out, handled well by Nathan Lukes. Bottom of the sixth, we see Okamoto reach again, this time with a fielding error by Lindor again. The New York Mets in fundamental baseball, they don't understand what that is, obviously. Ernie Clement then gets on with a walk. Then we see Austin Warren come in for Shamanaya, who's done after 5.2 innings. Valenzuela gets on with a walk. And Luis Urias strikes out swinging. Big boy K by Austin Warren, who escapes the bases loaded jam unscathed. We had the seventh inning. We're in the seventh inning. Francisco Lindor absolutely belts a baseball, running inside, 93-mile-per-hour heater from Trey Savage, and it's gone. See it to the right side. 105 off the bat for Lindor, his third home run of the year, obviously returning from injury, and the Mets are now down just a run here. A.J. Ewing then gets on with one out with a hit by pitch. The Mets do nothing with it, however, as we would see Vientos fly out, and then A.J. caught stealing between first and second. A.J. has been a tremendous high flyer in his young career. However, he has definitely been absolutely cooked sometimes with some of the tags that we have seen as of late. I appreciate the aggressive base running. I'd rather the Mets be aggressive versus obviously the opposite. But AJ has been caught a handful of times that we have seen over the past week going into now the bottom of the seventh. We see a 1-2-3 for the New York Mets for Austin Warren. Eighth inning, we go on to see the New York Mets. Francisco Alvarez, a one-out double. What do the Mets do from there? Two-out walk for Juan Soto. And mind you, this is against former friend Tyler Rogers. Love you, Tyler Rogers. We'll always support you. I don't fault you for going to the Blue Jays on that contract. 4-year deal, you get in a bag. Mets weren't going to do it. Enjoy your bag, Kane. Nonetheless, Bo Bichette, he's got runners at first and second, 2 outs. Prime opportunity for Bo Bichette to be the $42 million man the Mets obviously pay him to be. Step the hell up with runners in scoring position, multiple on, 2 outs. Literally one of the best hitters in baseball last year in this category, and obviously now far from it. He would ground out, and that does it there for the inning. Mets have the bottom of the 8th. Nathan Lukes gets on with a walk. Afterwards, Vladdy gets on with a single, but 3 big outs, including 2 strikeouts from Cosmo Moto to Brennan Valenzuela. Joey Gerber, who got the call up today, stepped up big time here in the 8th inning. We head to the 9th. We're against Louis Varland. Lindor goes down. Jared Young gets on with a single. AJ Ewing works a walk. 2 on, 1 away for Mark Vientos to do what he does so commonly, as is the case with Ronnie Mauricio, and that's striking out. And that is the New York Mets dropping yet a mother effing ball game. 2-1 is your final, everybody. And this one on the pitching end, we're going to break down Sean Manaea. Again, Sean was not the problem for the New York Mets today. That's what makes it all the more worse, right? You're disgusted by the fact that you see a guy like Manaea actually give you a respectable outing, something that he has not really done until this past month, where he's finally started to gain some velocity in his arsenal. And obviously he's also, Mike Puma of the New York Post, shout out to Mike. I just did a podcast with him and Dexter Henry like 2 weeks ago. Said he was aware of Eric Chavez's comments pertaining to him yesterday, and he said, I have no comment on that, which is not surprising to see. You know, we referenced Eric Chavez's comments in regards to Juan Soto in our video that dropped earlier today. I'm for you guys to check that out, obviously. But I just want to jump to that quick because I saw that pop up on my phone. So, whole lot of nothing there, everybody. Nonetheless, Sean Manaea, what am I going to give him a final line grade today? Well, let's get into Manaea's Arsenal first here. Not that it really matters to you guys. We're kind of just doing it for the sake of doing it because we always do it in our post-game shows. But, like, we're 15 games below 500. Sean Manaea is not going to be a New York Met potentially a month from now, and he most certainly will not be a New York Met a couple months from now. Nonetheless, Sean threw the kitchen sink today. He had the four-seam fastball that he threw 34% of the time. Sat 91 and was right around 2,000 on the spin rate. Sweeper 28% of the time today. Sat right around 77, was also 2,400 on the spin rate. Sinker 23% of the Arsenal. Sat right around 90, was also 2,000 on the spin rate. Cutter 12% of the Arsenal, sitting 84, was right around 2,100 on the spin rate. And last but not least, we have the changeup here. 2% of the Arsenal, 84 miles per hour, sat around 1,500 in the spin rate. Sean Manaea is going to get an easy 7 out of 10 from your guy Wardy today. Very, very happy with Sean Manaea's outing today. And think about it, that first turn run maybe doesn't happen if the defense doesn't utterly fail him the way that both Juan Soto and AJ Ewing missed the mark. That should have been at most a single for George Springer if Soto was playing back on. Instead, it's an inside the park effing home run after what they initially called a triple. Absolutely heinous. That should just start with it being a Soto error through and through. Nonetheless, obviously, he gets charged those 2 runs. Sean Manaea has not been the problem for the New York Mets lately, and I'm not going to sit here and act like he has been, because he has not really the past 2.5, 3 weeks. He's been that guy for them. But the errors are continuing to be costly, and this offense continues to be downright atrocious. Austin Warren and Joey Gerber do their thing today. Mets collective pitching staff today gets an easy 8.5 out of 10. Again, not the issue today. That has been, of course, now a theme since Carlos Mendoza has been canned. You know, now that Mendy's been canned, the Mets have been getting some damn good pitching performances with their starters, but literally nothing else to show. Absolutely horrendous. And talking about horrendous, step right up and meet the mother effing Mets in their offense. Still a bottom feeder in baseball, as we know. And they're going to be without Marcus Semien for an extended period of time, as his injury is worse than we initially thought. That will expand more into content tomorrow. Not that you guys are losing sleep over that, because I don't think there's a single fan out there that said to themselves, oh my God, where would this lineup be without the Mendoza line hitting Almost 40, Marcus Semien. Oh no, what are we gonna do? I understand you're not falling in that category, and I don't fault you for not falling in that category. Nonetheless, this is the Mets offense, as you guys and gals see beside me here. Carson Bench got himself a nice hit to begin the ball game, but not a whole lot after that. 257 average, 708 OPS. And by begin, I think it was in the third inning, his second at bat. Don't quote me, okay? Juan Soto, 1 for 3 today with the walk, 304 average, 785 OPS. I'm looking at the raw numbers. That's Nathan Lukes. Let's talk Soto. 301 with a 975. Damn right, it's 301 with a 975. Bo Bichette, 0 for today. Not shocked to see this. Bo played both third base and second base for the Mets today. 251 average, 679 OPS. The average is getting up, but I would love to see Bo actually get a nice big hit or two that we see in this series. I don't know about you guys, but it would be great if we would see Bo have like one big game. That'd be great. I don't know. Maybe I'm clearly asking for too much, and I understand that. But it would still be nice nonetheless. Bo, Ofer, Lindor, Homer, 220 average, 679 OPS. Jared Young, 1 for 4, 234 average, 747 OPS. AJ Ewing, Ofer, a walk, picked off, 275 average, 779 OPS. I still love AJ, though. Even with his error earlier today, that's probably the only time you'll ever see AJ Ewing make an error like that in his career. He is such a good web gem for this team. He's a very good base runner, regardless of him getting picked off lately. There's a lot to love about AJ Ewing, and he's 21 years of age, so he has all the makings of being a guy that could be uber talented and very valuable for this team for the next 5 to 10 years at minimum, as long as the Mets don't mess him up the way that they have with many other young talents that burst on the scene early, but didn't stay that way often. Cough, cough. We're still waiting to see more of that consistency with like a Francisco Alvarez, who I will say is not playing horrendous offensively right now, but when his at-bats are bad, they're just downright atrocious, obviously. And the defense, we all know the story there lately, unfortunately. Vientos, 0 for 4, 2 strikeouts, terrible at-bats today, 209 average, 627 OPS. He will not be a New York Met a calendar month from now, so enjoy Mark while you can. Brett Beatty, 0 for 2, 208 average, 585 OPS. Eric Wagman, 192 with a 699. Mauricio 0 for 2, horrendous, 182 with a 455. Ronnie Mauricio being hurt and out for a year from the Dominican Winter League was the worst thing to happen to him as a New York Met because he is never going to blossom as a New York Met. Francisco Alvarez, 1 for 3, 250 average, 740 OPS. Tyrone Taylor came in as a pinch runner, 202 average, 558 OPS. Louis Torrens, 214 average, 572 OPS to wrap up the game at catcher. Mets offense today. Enzo, don't start this victory lap about trying to act like others fell for the Stearns bullshit, but you didn't, okay? There were so many logical reasons to buy into certain things that David has done, and I wasn't even buying into everything. I just obviously have levels of optimism heading into this season. I had criticisms. I still felt that the Mets were short at least one true starter. I still felt that they were shortcomings with their offense in the first base position, and I had questions when it came to the bullpen. So do your victory lap, sure, but it's not the flex you think it is when, at the end of the day, we're all pissed off collectively that this team is not at all in the fashion that we were hoping that they'd be in at this juncture in the season, let alone 2 weeks into the season, okay? Nonetheless, everybody, all I have to say about this offense is not good. The Mets out-hit the Blue Jays 5-4 today. Yet they're 2 hours when in direct hint as to why they lost this 2-1. Despicable. Between defense and offense, the Mets' collective grade today is going to be a 1 out of 10. Just nothing to enjoy about it at all, whatsoever. I'm not going to sit here and act like there really is anything enjoyable about it. What GMs are even out there? No one that the Mets are chomping at the bit to hire right now. We'll talk more on that as we get to the offseason. How did Ewing beat Soto to that ball in the first place? Shit, well, I mean, Ewing is twice the fielder Soto is, so let's start there. That isn't really that hard to understand. John, thank you again for the donation. Once again, why can't this team get runners on? Yeah, I know, talking about moving them over via bunt. Yeah, no, I 100% agree with you. It's very frustrating. Very frustrating that this team does no fundamental play if it smacked them across the face. True or not, this clubhouse is toxic? Yes, but not in the way that you think. The clubhouse is not toxic in the sense that, oh my God, all these guys hate each other. But there's clearly a toxicity surrounding the team when it comes to, you know, the colossal failure that has been everything since the inception of the year, the endless injuries that plague the team where there's been a lack of unity and really coming together as a group because of it. A lot of guys, for wrong reason, focusing on themselves more than anything else, and just a lack of leadership. Again, we talked about a lot of this in my podcast for Straight Out Flushy on the New York Post Sports YouTube channel that you guys can check out after watching this, or wherever you get your podcast. You can check out my video that I did earlier today regarding David Stearns and talking about players literally from the Mets emphasizing how bad this culture is right now, literally from the team. Just over the past couple days, it's been reported, as well as Eric Chavez's remarks that I had a lot of things to say about, both an agreement and disagreement on, like anyone else. So that's the status there. Now, to get back to it, everybody, let's hop back to the main slide, because I have a couple more things I'd like to share with each and every one of you before we wrap up today's show. And yes, Soto is being interviewed right now. $700 million and not an RBI. Miguel, let's not act like Juan Soto is far and away the best player of the team and does laps around everyone right now. I get the errors suck today, and I get he didn't drive on a run today, but, like, that's a silly game to play for a guy with a 301 average and almost 1,000 OPS on the season, don't you think? I hear you. I get I want Soto to perform every night, too. I 100% agree with you. But, like, come on. As much as we want it to be the case, Juan Soto's not going to get an RBI every single game. The Mets are also 15 games below 500 since the first time since 2018. Do you guys understand what that means? I've been covering the New York Mets. This is my 6th season covering the club, okay? 2021, covered the full season. We did mostly watch parties. We didn't do really post-game shows in 2021. 2022, we stopped watch parties. We did some of them, but we did mainly post-game shows after every game. 2023, post-game shows until the trade deadline. Then I tapped out because the Mets tapped out, and I needed a mental break. Also, wasn't doing it as much of a job as I'm doing now, too. It was a job, but not to the same extent it is now. It's more of a job for me than ever has been before, which I'm grateful for. 2024 covered every single step. 2025 covered every single step. 2026, sadly, have covered every single step. Randy, I've explained at great length my beef with Eric Chavez. People on the platform have known this for a long period of time. It's not anything new. But you check it out. I have a segment famously in studio for the New York Post last summer on why Eric Chavez should be canned, and this was a couple months before the Mets ultimately fired him. Very reminiscent of the Mets now firing Carlos Mendoza when I've advocated for him for months to be fired. Not wrong, just early on these things, because David Stearns continues to be unbelievably late. Now, let's get into some key remarks here from Bo Bichette, just to hear him about the ovation night and stuff like that. And I'll also show you guys some of the emotions from pregame if you care about that. And then we'll talk about some other things drama-wise regarding the club, and then we'll call it a night. Because I don't want to waste too much of your time tonight. I realize that you're losing brain cells enough just having to focus on this shit show you call a team enough this time of year.
Or make of the ovation that you got?
Yeah, I mean, it's nice to know you meant a lot to people. You know, this city meant a lot to me. Spent a lot of years here and grew up here, so yeah, it felt good.
Is Alvarez okay after getting hit by Mauricio?
Yeah, that was scary. He seems fine. Just saw him right before I walked out here. He says he's good to go.
Yeah. Did I forget to mention that Ronnie literally hit Alvarez today with his bat to add insult to injury? First, you think the bad fundies are an issue enough to begin the ball game. Then you think, oh, the lack of offense surprised absolutely nobody. Then you add in the fact that we have players literally trying to take other players out with their bats. Like, again, this is just so unbelievably on brand. It's disgusting. I'm just so frustrated talking about this team. And he is trying his best, too. That's the unfortunate thing. Now, let's get back to these comments from earlier today from Bo Bichette. Look at how emotional Bo was earlier, guys, in case you didn't see.
No, I don't know what to expect. I mean, I think that I gave it everything I had. So I just hope that's appreciated.
Yeah, Bo's emotional reaction was reminiscent of some other players we've seen over the years. Maybe not so much entering the Mets, but with other organizations, Freddie Freeman obviously had a very emotional reaction to, returning to Atlanta for the first time. That's the one that first comes to mind. There's others out there too. Bo has not shown anything close to this season, obviously. He obviously misses Toronto. And if the New York Mets were a good team, maybe he missed them a little less. But nonetheless, going from a World Series run and falling short with the Blue Jays to now not being a Blue Jay, at least for this season, obviously hits home for Bo, who this is family, this is familiarity for him, and nothing about the New York Mets, I'm sure, has been comfortable for him thus far, which, again, even though he's making a lot of money, I can't fault him for the human element of it, because it's hard to be comfortable being a New York Met with the way this team is just so effing bad. Like, truly. So yeah, that's what I want to show you on Bo, everybody. I think the final thing I really just want to touch on with each and every one of you, because I'm not gonna divulge into this entirely. I'm just gonna do this real quick. Just gonna do this. Again, if you guys want to check out the main stuff that has come out, again, I highly suggest you check out my video that dropped earlier today. We'll talk more about it tomorrow, but nonetheless, we saw I'm trying to find it. Where is he? All right. So as you guys can see, Eric Chavez here talking about, like, just some of the, it's opinion, I get it, but Eric Chavez was on foul territory earlier today, just spewing shit. Where, like, even though I don't disagree with him on playing this stuff, he's not the messenger, nor should he be. He should not at all be the messenger in this situation. I find it appalling, quite frankly. You look at Hefner, you look at Antoine Richardson, they're excelling. Yeah, no shit, because they're with an organization that has stability like the Atlanta Braves, for one. And two, let's stop sitting here and acting like you weren't, like, completely down to be with the Mets right now if they didn't fire you. Like, this is, I'm gonna continue to beat this drum. Eric Chavez has stayed things over the past, 24 hours between his own podcast and now going on different platforms, kind of leaning into the fact of, how bad David Stearns looks right now. But my big gripe with this, and this is what's, again, driving me up a wall to no end, is that this is coming from an individual that, again, is a man scorned. He literally would not be saying, pardon my French, kiddos, F-bomb coming, he would not be saying a fucking word if he was still under payroll right now. This all comes down to the fact that his ass was fired, wasn't happy about it, and now his buddy Carlos Mendoza, who he worked with daily for multiple years, also was just canned. So I don't disagree with his remarks talking about the shortcomings of David Stearns, but for fuck's sake, look in the mirror, buddy. Okay? I don't give a rat's ass that the Mets had a top 5 offense in baseball last year. How were they with runners in scoring position down the stretch? How were they entering the 9th inning trailing a run or more? Fucking dog shit. And the reason why they went in direct hand, because the club did not have a proper culture mentality of having that rah-rah, being able to bounce back, okay? Now that Eric is at fault for all of that, I understand that. But let's also not act like he wasn't at fault for anything either. There's a reason why he was canned, and it made more than enough sense. It also makes sense to critique David Stearns. But when you're Eric Chavez, who has been fired, and when you go out your way to say all the same shit that every other schmuck has said over the past week and a half about Carlos Mendoza, the amount of, whether it's people close to him like Eric Chavez, my good friend in this space, Sal Licata, or other talking heads, there's been this common theme of, oh, let's blame David for everything and let's blame Carlos for nothing. Both things can be true, and it's such an idiotic point of view, especially with the biases that come from these individuals. Eric has a great rapport and relationship with Carlos Mendoza. He sympathizes with him to see him canned. He says Mendy's not at fault for anything. This has nothing to do with him. I'm sorry. If it had nothing to do with the fucking manager, then the Mets would not have been the worst team in baseball for a calendar year. You can't make that kind of asinine comment without at least having a little bit of reflection and foresight behind the actual guy at the helm, doing the day-by-day decisions, in-game decisions, bullpen decisions, and lineup construction. David is at complete fault for roster construction. Absolutely. 1,000%. But that's all that he's at fault for. Between that and hiring Carlos Mendoza in the first place. He should have never hired Mendy. Mendy was clearly never the proper hire, not the proper guy for this market. Too passive, not someone that's going to be a leader the way that the Mets have been dying to need in this clubhouse. They have lacked this leadership for so long. There's a reason why a player could not even tell you if there was leadership when asked by media that went and handled our video that we dropped earlier today. So again, I do not disagree with many of the things Eric has stated regarding Stearns. But a key quote that Eric said, that I said earlier, and I'll say it again to you guys, he went out of his way to say that once I finished my phone call with David Stearns, when I got a call from David, I knew it was coming. I asked David, how are you? And David said, oh, not having the best day. I think we're going to go in a different direction, meaning we're going to fire you. Eric replies, okay, understood. And David hangs up the phone right away. So the lack of the human feel there obviously rubbed Eric wrong, which I don't fault him for. David has his own respective reasons as to why he operates the way that he does. It doesn't even mean that I agree with it. It's just clearly how he operates. But at that moment, that's when Eric came to the realization, oh, David's not the right guy. Oh, he's not the guy for this job. Yeah, I'd say the same mother effing thing if I just got my ass fired too. Like, really? This is why so much of what Eric says does not carry weight. Again, I agree with many of the things he's saying, but many of the things that he is saying, we have been saying on the channel verbatim. He's no different than a fan in that point of view. And the opinions that he has shared from during his time with the New York Mets does not change the fact that he would not be voicing a single one of them if he was still under contract with the club right now. Furthermore, if he left the organization under his own terms, there is a far less likelihood that he is this outspoken. Think about it. Think of the timeline. Their Eric Chavez being outspoken sped up and got worse throughout the course of last year as the team was continuing to go to shit with their lack of clutch ability down the stretch. It got worse and worse where he was starting to go more after fans on Instagram Reels, on X, whatever the case may be. So I just want to emphasize that because both things can be true. Eric could be saying things about David Stearns I don't disagree with him on. David has not been a good president for this team. But Chavez is not the one to be the voice to the fans and to others here. He should not be, at least in my opinion. Because it's hitting deaf ears for me, and it should be hitting deaf ears for you. Just like how everything that Carlos Mendoza was clearly saying to that Mets clubhouse was also hitting deaf ears, along with Eric Chavez's hitting approach was hitting deaf ears when it came to clutch ability for the Mets down the stretch last season. But with that being said, let's get to 2 comments, and then we're wrapping this one up. Because, were you doing a chat for a show again? If you're referring to members, yes, we will be doing a members show very soon. I pinky promise. If that's what you're referring to. Hosty, great member, $5 holla. Vientos needs to go. Rather watch Jiwon Bay. I would not rather watch Jiwon Bay take TA trips. Nope, don't want that. I agree with you though that Mark has to go and he will be going. Anything is better than him and that dumb elbow guard. That's hilarious. Nick, $2 holla. Screw, just take roids at this point. Who says no? Let's go back to the old days, right? Who cares about heart health dying by the time you're in your 40s? It's fine. Let's entertain, baby. Cue the sarcasm. Dave, $2 holla. This team is funnier than Abbott and Costello. That's funny. Thank you for the donation. I appreciate that. Wardy, do I think Alvey will be traded? No, not right now. Do I think Francisco Alvarez is going to be with the Mets long term? Currently, no, I do not. I will expand more on that when the time is right, not at this very moment. Having said that, however, I'm going to wrap up the show now, everybody. So I would like to thank you all so much once more for chiming in live on a replay. Continue to let us know your thoughts in the live chat in the comments down below. Your biggest takeaways from not only the Mets dropping this one 2-1 in the most Metsian way imaginable and the way the game essentially ended before it began, quite literally, to the drama continuing to ensue and surround this Metropolitan club. We will have video dropping tomorrow earlier in the day, and we will have another post-game show, win or lose, more than likely the latter, for each and every one of you tomorrow evening. Until then, have a great one, everybody. Thank you again for chiming in. Try to enjoy yourself more than the New York Mets are enjoying themselves right now because it's a low bar. I'll see you guys mañana. As always, no matter what, guys, you know the drill. Let's go Mets.